Romanosky and Aidan Goss, shooting from Calgary, Canada, and the lug nuts facility. And what we have here is a 2008 Ferrari F430 F1 Spider. So this is going to be advertised on Bring a Trailer, and we'll go through our usual thorough video on this car, on these cars, and maybe just a little bit more thorough on this particular car. One, because it is a Ferrari, and the second one is because it does have some maintenance issues that that any prospective buyer is going to want to try to fully understand and quantify. So, as our usual custom, Aidan and I will do a really comprehensive video on this car. It wouldn't surprise me if it takes an hour and 15 minutes or so to go through it. We'll do all the usual exterior, interior, undercarriage, cold start, driving videos, but we'll add some more with this Ferrari because it does have some maintenance needs, and so we will try to explore that fully, both on by videotaping the parts in question, and by taking a careful look at all of the service history of the car, which hopefully will give you a really clear picture of what you are buying. So we'll do, like I said, our usual videos, but we're going to spend some extra time on the passenger side because the car was hit in the passenger door. We'll spend some extra time on the soft top operation because the tonneau cover has some issues with it. The soft top folds fine, but the tonneau cover is misaligned. We'll spend some extra time on the exhaust because there is a rattle from the left-hand side exhaust header. And we will spend some time going through all the suspension pieces and all the rubber. So this video will take a while, but hopefully with the complete service history of the car that we're providing, with 400 photographs, with up over an hour of video, we'll give you a really clear picture of this Ferrari. Okay, so to start on it, we'll just describe this particular car. So in 2008, I was the sales manager of the Ferrari dealership in Calgary. I was the first sales manager they had, so kind of responsible for getting the brand established in Alberta. And the guy who bought this was one of my first customers, and he was the guy that had sold his company, always dreamed of a Ferrari, never had one before, came in and just spec'd the car. We spec'd the car together, and I think we did a great job on it. Silverstone metallic paint, red and black interior, Daytona seats, carbon fiber dash trim. And in 08, the F430s came with standard ceramic brakes. We elected for the ball polished 19-inch wheels. And I'm not sure what else we did to this car. Red brake calipers, two-tone interior, carbon fiber trim, carbon fiber wheel, black soft top, of course. And I think with this interior, we would have started with a black interior with red seats, and then you got to choose which seats you want, and we opted for the Daytona seats, and you get to choose the outer seat, the inner seat, and then if you want these contrast leather panels, a contrasted color, you can choose that too. So we went with the red seats with the black inserts, and then the black on black for the inserts, not a two-tone Daytona seat. So that was what we came to, and I think we did a really great job. This car looks fantastic. So the guy who bought it wasn't necessarily like a super car guy. It's not like he spent his life on F-Chat, and he just sold his company, wanted to treat himself, always wanted a Ferrari, went and bought the Ferrari. He drove it, so this car has 60,000 kilometers on it. And for this guy, it was just a car. you know, he took it to, it's been dealer serviced in Calgary, but he lived in Kelowna for most of the year, particularly the winters. And so this car spent most of its life in Kelowna. In Kelowna, it was serviced at August Motor Cars, and then when it needed dealer servicing, it came back to Calgary. The 60,000 kilometers, a lot of it is going back and forth from Calgary to Kelowna. It's on its original clutch. I think it's got 34% left in its original clutch with 60,000 kilometers. So that tells you a little bit about how it was driven, not in stop and go traffic. So this wasn't a prize or a trophy. You know, you can find F430s with no mileage on them. And this guy just, for better or worse, just bought a Ferrari and actually drove it. I mean, not that much, 60,000 kilometers over, you know, what is it, 17 years or whatever, isn't a whole lot of kilometers per year, but it was steadily and regularly driven and regularly serviced, and you know, he got his use out of the car. The last couple of years haven't been much fun for him because the car has had a persistent soft top problem that's been, I think, to August Motor Cars in Kelowna a couple times, and to Ferrari of Alberta a couple of times, and they still can't fix it. So that's been a frustration. And, you know, the last 3 times it's been to the dealer, you know, the dealers had the car. I mean, August had the car, it looks like all, you know, for 5 months or something. And then they couldn't fix it and needed to send it to the dealer. And then the Calgary dealer had the car for 6 months, fixed the problem with the top, got it to work fine, gave it back to him in Kelowna. He had it tried it a few times, put 3 kilometers on the car. It didn't work again, shipped it back to the Ferrari dealer, had it for another 6 months. So in a period of 13 months, he only had the car for one of those 13 months, and the other 12 of them were at the dealer. So, you know, and then to top it off, after all of that, you know, the dealer gave him a low wholesale number on the car and kind of put a little bit of pressure on him to sell it. And he just had enough of the car and had his fun with it, but it wasn't fun anymore because he couldn't get the soft top problem fixed, and has just decided to unload it, gave it to me, and here it is on Bring a Trailer with a very, very, very reasonable reserve. So this is going to be an opportunity for somebody to, you know, potentially get a really good looking Ferrari F430 for, you know, a good price, as long as they realize that they still have some stuff to sort out with the roof, and there's a few other things as well that we'll go through in the video. Okay, so breaking those 3 things, or breaking those issues up, are the soft top works fine, but the tonneau cover doesn't close very well, and it can get a little bit twisted and a little bit crooked when it wants to come down, and then it's fouled this fiberglass piece and damaged it, and we can see that later. The canvas goes up and down just fine. It's just this piece that doesn't. They called it for a rear hydraulic cylinder. Both dealers replaced the part, it appears to me, 3 times, and it still doesn't shut properly. I'm just not sure what the problem is. And I've got a whole section of the video dedicated to the soft top, showing the operation of it and going through all of the service records. So somewhere in here, this tonneau cover isn't shutting properly. Okay, so that's one issue. Another issue with the car is that in the back here, we have a little bit of a rattle from the driver's side exhaust manifold. And again, we explore that when the car's on the hoist. We start it up, and we can listen to that. It is a known trouble spot for F30s. They've got the 4 exhaust pipes coming out of the bank, and then that's all shielded with like a metal heat shield that's all welded together. And then in there is a pre-cat that then goes downstream from that. There is the larger cat. So you've got this one assembly, which is 4 exhaust pipes, all shielded with an integral cat. And over time and over heat cycles, the welds in this manifold start to break up and it starts to rattle. So the fix, usually they can't be repaired, and the fix is a new manifold or new manifolds. Anyway, we'll explore that in detail in the video later as well. The other issue is after 17 years and 60,000 kilometers, some of the rubber in the suspension is starting to crack a little bit and deteriorate. There's the boots and the ball joints, and there's a couple of other buffers in the shocks and so on. You can see a little bit of cracking. Nothing that's noticeable when you drive it. The Ferrari of Alberta called it for play in the suspension. I didn't notice any play in it, but you could see that the rubber was starting to deteriorate. Okay, so we also have some leaks, not severe leaks, but we've got some leaks from the valve covers and the front timing chain cover that leaves a little bit of residue on the belly pan. It doesn't drip, and there's no oil that goes in the manifolds or anything, but you can see that the side of the block is a little bit wet, and there is a little bit of very tiny amount of oil loss, and there's a leak from the gearbox. Okay, so bidders would want to know about the clutch wear and the F1 gearbox pump. The F1 gearbox pump was replaced a couple thousand kilometers, I think in 2023, and the clutch shows 34% after 60,000 kilometers, and it's on its original clutch. So there'll be a point where you're going to want to redo you're going to need to do the clutch, and there's a leak from the gearbox. It's minor, but it's there. So you probably want to do that, and then maybe the engine leaks at the same time as you do the clutch. I mean, that would all make sense. So the next owner can then, knowing that what maintenance is going to be required, can buy this car, I think, at obviously a discounted rate because of this maintenance, these maintenance needs. But then you have the option of, you don't have to do everything at once, so you can schedule these items if you like, and then break down the investment kind of over a multi-year plan, I would say. So you might just get the exhaust manifold and the top looked at, like right now, and you might defer the leak from the engine and the gearbox for another year or two, and then when you do that, you'd replace the clutch as well. So whatever, you could do it all at once now too, but you don't necessarily have to. And the good thing about buying this way is that your initial investment is lower compared to buying one where everything's already done. And it also gives you the opportunity to, if you're a DIY guy, to tackle some of these jobs yourself, or if you've got a great independent that you use or a relationship with a dealer, you can choose who's working on this car. And here's an idea that I'd also like to throw out there. There is a big difference in value now between the F1 gearbox car and the 6-speed manual car. When we were selling these, when I was selling them in 2008, we told everybody not to get the manual gearbox. It wasn't as fast. You would lose performance. You'd lose some settings on the Manatino, with the gearbox, the operation of the gearbox and so on. So you'd lose a whole lot of the technological ability and the performance of the car if you got a manual. Also, there were some supply issues with the manuals as well. So the dealers didn't want to sell the manuals because they didn't know when they'd be made. And so they pushed everybody into the F1 cars. I had a couple guys who wanted 599 manuals, and we even had the dealer principal come over and say, no, you don't want that. It's not very good. I've driven the car doesn't suit it. You don't want a 599 with a manual. And the guy said, okay, well, I'll get the F1 then. After they went out of production, and after they ceased making the manual, and I think most manufacturers do that when you get less than 5% order rate, then they'll just take the option off. So they weren't even getting 5%, and they deleted the manual gearbox. Well, then everybody wanted a manual gearbox. Porsche was doing the same thing with their Turbo S's and so on. So then we saw some auction results of 599s where, you know, the F1 gearbox car had depreciated from, you know, 400 grand to 250, but the manual car, I remember one manual car selling for $700,000. So then everybody wanted a Ferrari manual because there weren't very many of them. Even though we told everybody it wasn't very good. There's a reason there weren't very many of them, because the F1 gearbox was better. But now that it's rare and everybody wants analog cars, everybody wants a manual. So now there's a big difference in price between a 599 manual or a 612 manual. There's very few of those exist. And an F430 manual versus the F1 gearbox. So when you've got, you know, for instance, this car in perfect shape with an F1 gearbox might be, let's just call it, you know, $200,000 Canadian or something like that. The gated 6-speed, you know, might be almost double that, 350. If you bought a gated 6-speed F430, it's probably worth more than you paid for it in 2008. So a market has come up now for modifying F1 cars into gated 6-speed manuals. The gearbox is the same. There's no difference in the gearbox or the differential or any of those parts. It's basically just an electro-hydraulic, you know, add-on that goes on, bolts on the side of the gearbox, and then interfaces with the rest of the electrical system. The mechanics of the gearbox are the same. So it isn't too big a job to take that electro-hydraulic stuff out of the car and then replace it with the parts for the manual gearbox. There's companies that are doing that, and I think the number is like 25 grand. Not just for Ferrari, but I know Aston Martin for their Vanquish had a not very good automated manual gearbox, and there's a factory modification to put those back to 6 speeds. This has become kind of a thing, and there's a number of companies that have come out with their kits for the cars. Given that you need to do the engine oil leaks and the gearbox leaks, given that you need to change the exhaust manifold in the car, given that it's a mid-mileage car at 60,000 kilometers, the car is a good candidate, I think, for a manual conversion. In the day, you know, you could say, well, you want the F1 gearbox, not the manual gearbox, because, you know, the F1 will do 0 to 60 in, you know, 4.3 seconds or something like that, and the manual might take 4.6, and there's 0.3 seconds difference. So really, you don't want anybody to beat you, so you better get the F1 gearbox. Well, now, you know, my Tesla Model 3 would smoke this thing. So nobody cares about whether it's 4.3 or 4.6 or 3.9 or whatever it is. Nobody cares about that, because it's now all the cars have 600 or 800 horsepower, and, you know, to get in newsworthy, you know, you need a car that does 0 to 100 in under 2 seconds, okay? So now, especially, you know, looking for this, it's almost a classic car. People are after the experience, in which case they want the gated, traditional Ferrari experience of the gated manual gearbox. Also, it being a Spider, you know, you've got that much more sort of a visceral experience. We know we need at least one exhaust manifold. That means generally buying 2 exhaust manifolds. But now now that you're buying manifolds, you've got the whole question of, well, what exhaust do you want on the car? And there's examples from, you know, Tubi and Capristo, and you can get a Ferrari Challenge exhaust if you want to keep it all Ferrari. You know, you can put cats in it, you can put test pipes in it, depending on your jurisdiction and what you're using the car for, etc. So, you know, you could buy this car at a really good price and think, okay, well now I'm buying it well enough that, you know, why don't I do the manual conversion and change it to a Challenge exhaust and do all the maintenance while I'm at it, and you know, come up with something that, you know, you will be in high demand, and that you know, you'll get your money back out of, and that you can, you know, customize the car just the way you want it. So it's a good opportunity, I think, for somebody who, you know, wants to take this on as a project, but maybe do a little bit of extra. Okay, so that is the summary of this 430. Let's walk into an exterior walk around. Okay, generally speaking, the car is pretty hard to fault cosmetically. It has had some paint work. Somebody did drive into the passenger door, which has been replaced along with the passenger sill. We'll go through it with a paint meter to figure out exactly what all has been painted. Just looking at the car from 5 or 6 feet around, it looks pretty close to perfect. There is some damage on the top of the tonneau cover that's hidden by the top, and we can see photographs of that in the gallery. But there's no obvious cosmetic defects kind of walking around the car. There's no scratches, there's no door dings, there's no, at least on the parts of the bumper that you can see, any damage. There's a little mark there on the rear bumper. There's no door dings. I don't see any orange peel. I don't see any prep marks. There's a little bit of fouling on the top of this piece that comes from the ill-fitting tonneau cover, and it's just on the top. It's not on the side of it, but it's there. I don't see any marks on the fenders, bumper covers. If we get to the lower few inches of the car and underneath the car, there is scraping. We can see this better in the undercarriage video. There is some scraping on the lower part of the bumper. There's no cracks in the bumper, but there is, you know, this has been scraped up over curbs. There is 3M, or protective film, on the bumper cover and on the front clip. And if we look in these black areas, some of this is just bugs, but there's the odd mark in some of these black areas, but it looks pretty good. When we put the car up in the air, we can see that underneath the front bumper, it's scraped up. But on anything you can see without rolling around on the ground, it looks excellent. I don't see any variation in any of the metallics. It's not obvious that, you know, the way the metallic hits the light, it's not obvious that any one panel is different than any other panel. I don't see any masking marks or any evidence whatsoever the car has been painted. I know the car has been painted, but if I didn't know that because I've known the history of the car from new, if I didn't know that, I wouldn't be able to tell. In the undercarriage video, I can show you that the passenger sill which has been replaced, is very slightly, I don't want to say misaligned, but it doesn't look exactly the same as the driver's side by maybe 1/8 of an inch. It looks like it's outset by just a tiny bit relative to the other side. You can't notice anything by looking at it, but if I look at it underneath and then I know what's happened to the car and I look for it, I can see a little bit of a difference in the distance between the washer and the end of the sill panel by 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so if I know what to look for, I can find it, but there's no way that I would know that just by looking at the car. I'd never find it on my own. It's too small to be noticeable, and it's only on the hoist that you can really tell. And again, you have to be looking for it. But we have the headlight lenses, and we can see that they're lightly pitted. And the paint is perfect again, so I'm pretty sure this is repainted, and these are original. We see a little bit of evidence of the 3M lifting, and these black areas, there's the odd little place where it took a stone chip. On the windshield, we can see kind of uniform light pitting from rocks. It's very hard to avoid in Western Canada if you or in Alberta if you drive the car. And that's consistent with the headlight lenses. The fact that nothing appears on the front end is consistent that the front end has been repainted, okay? So there's no cracks in the windshield. There's nothing that, stands out as an irritant. But if you look at it closely, you can see evidence that there are some stone chips. We have 3M on the sides of the mirrors, and they look good. I don't see any scratches around the door handles. Again, there's no door dings, there's no dents, there's no scratches on the side. There's some light, well, I guess that's 3M there. So there's film that's protecting here, the sills, and you can see in the 3M, there's maybe some scuffing on that, but that's protective film. And I guess, okay, we can see the line there. So it was applied from here and then covering the sills, okay? So all that looks pretty good. The wheels all look excellent. These are the ball polished challenge wheels. And I think they are all perfect. Tires are new, Michelin Pilot Super Sports. And they're, I think a year old, and or Pilot Sport 4S's, sorry. And the date codes on those are the end of 2023, 51st week of 2023 for date codes on those. We can see a little bit of rash here, and that's actually just where the film isn't covering. We can see it chipped a bit of the paint there. I think all these wheels, there's one mark here on the wheels on the passenger rear. It's barely noticeable, but it's there. Let's just check the other wheels. And that one's perfect. And it's a very, very, very tough wheel to refinish, because it's like I don't know, they polished it with little balls, I guess, ball polished, but it's got a little bit of an uneven texture, which makes it really tough to refinish. So anyway, one is one mark, tiny mark, all the rest are good. We can look at the soft top now. We'll get into the mechanism later, but we can see that there are some wear marks and some slight perforations in the top on these two locations. There's a little bit of wear there, a little bit of wear back here. The clear window is a little bit scuffed up. Now, a lot of that can come out with just a bit of a polish. We've got a little bit of a mark there, and a couple more marks where it compressed. Okay, so the soft stop is still serviceable. You can get these filled. I don't think you need to buy a new soft top for it. Most of the time you're going to be driving this thing with the top down anyway. But anyway, let's disclose those marks. Other than that, I don't think there's anything other noteworthy about the exterior of the car. It really looks sharp. Looking at it right now, you don't know that anything's wrong with it. And there's no obvious cosmetic defects. And you know, it's still as pretty as it was when I delivered this thing new in 2008. If you look at it, the gaps are all good. If you look at it closely, you know, you can see this piece isn't as perfectly aligned. There's a little bit of a difference left to right. And you can see there's a tiny little mark there where it's being fouled by this errant piece, which doesn't close properly. We'll get a better look. We can also get a better look at this door. Since we know this door is new, you know, we can have a close look at the door gaps. And I explored this when I had the car in the air as well. And it looked to me as though the bottom corner of this door, can we zero in on this? Could be lifted out a couple of millimeters so that this distance, I don't know if you can see that, is, you know, it's flush here, it's flush up here, and then it slowly, the distance slowly increases, so that the bottom part of this door looks to me like it could be adjusted out a little bit. Not, I mean, nothing you'd ever notice, but just again, you know, once you know a Ferrari has been in an accident, everybody wants to know exactly what the result is. And you know, I'd rather be exhaustive now than answer a million questions later. So that's that. And I think that wraps up the exterior of the car. But let's start here, and we'll just go around the car and do the paint meter. Now, factory paint depth on a Ferrari is about 200 micrometers, 0.2 of a millimeter, and the film is also going to be about the same, 150 or 200 micrometers. So I'm expecting, you know, something in the 4s, which this is, okay? So 437, 521, 484, 426. Again, same with the hood. It's got 3M on it. 498, 525, 466, 553, 510, 508. Okay, driver's side fender, 459, 483, 447, 485, 534. Okay, no surprises there. This piece here, I don't think has 3M on it, don't think has PPF. Okay, so now I'm getting, you know, in the 2s, 257, 255, 268. Okay, so the door, no 3M, 187, 234, 197, 206, 222, 234, 203, 219, 193, 217. This panel is composite, so nothing's going to come up. This is metal, 186, 225, 193, 207, 216, 177. Now I know the car, and I'll put a photograph of it. I know it was hit in the door. I know this was broken, and I know there was a scratch on this panel. So let's just see what it says. 260, 240, 230, 438, 406, 471, 525. This is composite, so nothing comes up. 420 quarter has been refinished. It's 100, 150 micrometers more than the other side. This door was hit. This was scratched. This piece doesn't come off, at least very easily. It's not a new fender. I already checked underneath of it, so nothing's been done on the underside of this fender. It's just been refinished. We see it's 150 micrometers more than the other one. So now that I know that this is painted, I can take a really close look at the adjoining panels, and I don't really see, I don't see any difference. So, or the fender to the bumper, which is really, really tricky, especially with metallic paint. So the guy who painted this really nailed it with matching the color. Okay, so I'll definitely say that. Now we get to this door, and so let's see what it says. And we get again 428, 260, 230, 390, 435. Now, let me explain how the body shops normally do this. Normally, if this is scratched, they're going to sand it all down. Generally, they won't take it back to bare metal. They will leave some of the old paint and primer on it. They'll just sand it, and then they'll skim it. So if it started out at 200 micrometers, and now it's reading 400 micrometers, that makes sense because they left some of the old material on and put a new layer, and it's not as thin as kind of the factory paint. So this is consistent with a good repaint with no filler in it, just adding another 150 or 200 micrometers of depth, because you've already got some material on the panel before you've painted and cleared. Okay, does that make sense? Now, let's say that this aluminum panel was just repaired and it had big dents in it. Well, then you'd need a lot. Then you need to knock out the dents. Very difficult in aluminum. Then you would need to put filler over it, and you would have more than 400 micrometers. If that was the case, and I know this is the area of the dent, you know, you would very likely be getting stuff that's over 1 millimeter, okay, if it was done that way. So it wasn't. I don't have the invoice for the repair, but given that this door was hit quite hard, and that it is only showing, you know, 3s and 4s, 2s, 3s, and 4s for paint depth, I can safely assume it's a brand new door, which makes sense, okay? And often when you get a new door, it comes in primer already, and so you don't need much finishing. So it's normal that if this panel was original to the car and was refinished, leaving some of the old material on it, and this panel or this part was a brand new part that came in primer, that the paint depth on the new part would be less than the original part, okay? That's what I would expect to find on the car. And, you know, I'm getting 3s, 2s, 2s, 3s, but when I go to this panel, I get 4s, 5s, 4s, 4s, 4s. Okay, so does that make sense? This was an original panel. It was just scraped. It was not cut out and replaced. There was no metal work on the inside of it that I could tell. It was, and I think the scratch was right in this area here. And there is no excessive filler in any of this. So this was just repainted. The door was new. This piece is new, but it's composite, so I can't tell the paint depth. And then I go to the front fender, and I get 4s, close to 5, close to 5, high 4s, and high 4s. Yeah, so I think the hood's been repainted as well, and it doesn't have any rock chips at all. The door hasn't been. I'm confident in saying the door and the rear quarter and the trunk lid have not been repainted. I'm confident in saying that this side of the car has been repainted. I'm mostly confident in saying the hood has been repainted. And this fender, well, I just don't know. It could be blended. I mean, that's a 200 without film. That's a 450 with film. I'm going to say on balance, it probably, the front clip and that side of the car has been repainted, and from the door to the passenger rear is original. Okay, I don't know if I wasn't there, but to the best of my ability, I believe that's what's been done to this car, and that all happened in 2015, so that was 10 years ago. Okay, so that wraps up the body. Let's go to the interior now. And so not too much to complain about with the interior. It is a two-tone interior with Daytona leather seats, with the Daytona panels not contrast color. The leather has never been sprayed or reconditioned. This is just as we found it, and we can see that there is some patina on the bolster. There's no rips or tears. The stitching is still intact. Sometimes if you get the wear too much, it goes through the stitching as well, and that's not the case. These would respond really well to a sympathetic re-dyeing, cleaning, and so forth, and they'd look, they'd look a lot better. I didn't try to do that for this because, the original Ferrari leather is unique. It has unique aroma and texture and so on. And if you do that improperly, especially if you just do it quickly for for photographs online, you know, you can just spray paint it so it looks good, but then you've got a plastic coating over your natural leather, which I didn't want to do. Okay, so I think that would really respond well to subtle redying and some leather cleaning. Critically, with any Ferrari or any car with leather dashes, for instance, if they're left out in the sun, you know, the dash will shrink and it'll pull away, and that's like a $10,000 fix on these cars. And so we can see that there's no noticeable shrinking on any of the leather parts on the dash. You'd see it, you know, on the airbag cover. You'd see it pull away there. You'd see it pull away, you know, at the base of the windscreen, and we don't see that at all. So the dash is in nice shape. The carbon fiber is in nice shape. It's not scraped up. The carpets are in nice shape. I don't know what happened to the floor mats in the car, but it could use some floor mats. We can see the aftermarket Pioneer sound system, which is put in, and we can see this, I don't know what that is, subwoofer, I guess. And that was done when the car was brand new. And the audio systems in these cars in '08 were terrible. And so we actually had quite a few customers who just get brand new cars, take them straight to our local guys called Mobile Solutions Calgary, and put like higher end audio in it. And so the stereo works really well still. And like I said, the original OEM Ferrari stuff was just terrible. Looking around in the interior, again, just don't see anything to complain about. There's obviously a lot less wear in the passenger seat. And it could use some hide food. It could use some leather cleaning, you know, like a sympathetic re-dye. It could use some floor mats. But other than that, the dash is good, steering wheel's good, trim is good. Ferrari buttons can get sticky. You know, this kind of rubberized coating kind of comes off, and you know, you get what they call sticky buttons. So we don't see that with this car at all. And you know, a lot of the rubber coating, if you use, particularly after the pandemic, when people used aggressive alcohols to clean the inside of cars, it would strip off this coating on the buttons. So we don't see that with this car. Okay, so we got good carpets, good dashboard, good buttons. Seats could use maybe a little bit of work, but other than that, interior looks great. The sill, there's a maybe a little bit of mark on the red leather sill here. Sills on these cars are leather, so really easy to scuff up. Again, it could just use a little bit of cleaning, a little bit of scuffing on the sill plate, but otherwise looks good. We'll undo the bonnet releases. We can see we have an aftermarket adapter for your iPhone, and I believe that's a radar detector that's also wired into the car. Okay. Maybe just one last pan of the interior to show you all that. Get the seats, sills, door cards. All the handles are in good shape. Everything works. We'll go for a drive and, you know, start it up later, but everything looks good in the interior. Engine bay, and I guess we'll do the trunk as well. Okay, the trunk area, we can see the original Ferrari sticker on the hood. We have the air compressor, and then we have the tool kit, and we've got the car cover, and we've got a bag for the battery tender. Then we've got the, you know, the Ferrari badged trickle charger, and this has been pre-wired into the car from the factory, and it just lives up in this corner here, and that gets just fitted there for the trickle charger. And that cord there is, I believe, the mechanical release. Oh, for the glove box. Okay, so there's the glove box and the Ferrari flashlight in there. We'll look in the engine bay. It's all stock. We have the stock Ferrari exhaust and silencer. No modifications here. Sometimes I've seen these panels get discolored from the heat. I don't see that here. Looks like we have one fastener missing over there, but all the other fasteners are present, and there's no indication of damage or anything. From up here you can't tell anything's leaking, and it looks like tidy engine bay, no damage to any of the aluminum. Valve covers look good. There's no deterioration of the rubber that I can see. So really nothing to complain about in the engine bay on the car. Nothing noteworthy. Here is the EPA sticker. So that's the one that says that it meets California emissions. So cars going to the States will need two stickers. They'll need the EPA and the DOT. The DOT sticker, kind of a little bit invisible, and it's in there, riveted to the plate. And that is a Canadian DOT sticker. It does not have the American DOT sticker. For European cars going into the US, they need to have both stickers, US versions. So that's a Canadian one, not a US version. If it doesn't have the US version, you need a compliance letter. You need to get that from the manufacturer saying that this car conforms to all, DOT, American NIHT or DOT standards. So if you don't have the sticker, you need the compliance letter, and you get that from FNA, okay? Some manufacturers give you a hard time about getting that compliance letter. They use it as a trade barrier to try to keep the business within the dealers. Some dealers charge you for the compliance letter. It's all murky, and it seems like it changes every day. So I don't really want to comment whether or not one dealer or another dealer is going to give you the compliance letter, or FNA is going to give you the compliance letter. If you don't have the compliance, if you don't have the two stickers and you can't get a compliance letter, you can still import the car. You just need a registered importer to do it for you. That takes a little bit more time, costs a little bit more money, but it's still easy enough to do, okay? So this car has the Canadian DOT sticker, the US EPA sticker. It will need a compliance letter from FNA. If you don't get a compliance letter, it needs a registered importer. Registered importer adds a couple $1,000s to the importation of the car. Okay, so let's do the cold start and driving video. This car hasn't been started for several days. We've just been pushing it around the garage. So let's go through the process here. And if you bring that closer, so we will put the top up. And now that we've done that a few times, we know how to do it without damaging anything. So Aiden, you can get in the driver's seat. There's the key. And we're just going to raise this top up, I think, for the last time. Why was it doing that, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, stop.
Yeah, I'm not touching it.
Okay, go. 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 Okay, go. Okay, go. Okay. Okay, and we're good?
Yep.
Okay, so we put the top up, and now I'm going to start the car. Aiden's going to look at what comes out of the back, and I might as well open the lid for it, and I can hook the microphone. Maybe I'll just do that right over the muffler here, and then we'll start the car. Okay, so we can hear the exhaust rattle a little bit, and we'll take this car outside pretty quick so we don't smell out the shop. But go open the garage door here. We can see that it's settling down now and you don't really hear the rattle anymore. All right, so brake on, first gear, handbrake off, and let's take it outside. Am I gonna make it? Sure I will. Quite. Okay, so reverse. And then we'll put it in first. Car out of the garage. All right. Neutral. Open this up again. And why don't you just hold this next to that the driver's side exhaust manifold while I go get my jacket, okay? Clip on there, button this up, and let's go for a drive. Let's raise the windows, and sometimes these cars are slow, but this is good. Can we get your window there? Here, I'll do it. Just videotape it though. All right, so windows work good. We'll notice that there's no check engine lights on. So it has an airbag light on, no idea why. It was in for an airbag sensor, but of course, you know, it's been in for the dealer a few times for the top, and that doesn't work either. So anyway, there's that. We've got our climate control, and that works. We're gonna set the temperature, see if we have any heat. Sure we do. The sound system's actually really good on this thing. I know that's in there. All right, so the sound system's a lot better than what the car would have had new. And this car went straight from the dealership to MSC to get the sound system replaced. So it was state of the art back then anyway. We got 61,854 kilometers on it. Except for that airbag light, we don't have any other lights on. There's not too much else in these cars. They're actually pretty simple cars. In the Manatino, we have it in the snow position. So we are going to, well, we'll check the mirrors. Driver's side mirror works fine. Passenger side mirror works fine. Handbrake works. I can feel the heat coming out, so that works. And first gear. Now this isn't the Ferrari's natural habitat. There's salt on the ground. So there's gravel and stuff. So, and we're in an industrial area in southeast Calgary. So we're not going to be able to show you too much about obviously the capabilities of the car. Just want to demonstrate that everything works. And we'll go real slow here when there's some gravel. We're still first gear. You know, we see lots of oil pressure as you'd expect. We got a little bit of temperature in the car, you know, whatever, 70 degrees Celsius. And what else can I show you?
Is the F1 gearbox fully automated, or do you have to use the paddles?
No, there's an auto function down there. If I want, I can put it in auto. Generally, it's good practice in these cars to put it in neutral at stoplights so you don't wear out the clutch.
Is that similar to the Astons?
Yep. Yeah. Not the same gearbox, but a similar system, yeah. Yeah. And then these were the first automated manuals. It came out in the 355 in the late 90s, and then was adapted for the 360 as well. So this is the third Ferrari to have, well, there's the V12 cars too. So it's the fourth, I don't know, maybe fifth Ferrari to have the F1 gearbox. The pumps on these go, the F1 pumps, and this one has been replaced in the last few thousand kilometers. So it's in auto now, actually, and oh, I see. It's in snow mode here, so let's put it in sport. And now it'll downshift. It blips the revs on the downshift. Now this is a very bad road. Just nothing but semis and big potholes and so on. And we know that from the description from the Ferrari invoice, they're calling it for play in the ball joints, play in the suspension. If you were going to feel play in the car, it would be on a road like this. I haven't driven this car for 15 years. This particular car, because I would have driven it when I sold it new. So I'm not hearing anything in terms of clunks or anything else from the suspension, and I'm not feeling anything either. That doesn't mean there isn't some play in the suspension. I don't know. I couldn't detect any when the car was up in the air. I can't detect any now. It drives like any other 430. I don't hear any metal on metal contacts. But I did notice that some of the rubber boots were torn from the ball joints. I did notice that there was some cracking on the buffers in the shocks. But I don't notice anything. I don't notice anything when I'm driving. And obviously I'm not. At a racetrack it might prove otherwise. I mean, it drives beautiful. I'm not aware of any exhaust issue or exhaust rattle. There's nothing. The clutch has 34% on it, and it's the original clutch. It's never been done. The car is 62,000 kilometers. And that's just because most of the time this thing was driven from Calgary to Kelowna. And now it's starting to feel like a Ferrari. And there's no slop in the steering. There's no pulling on the brakes. No pulsation from the brakes. No vibration. It's got new tires. Lots of pad. Lots of negligible wear on the ceramics. Downshifts the way it's supposed to. Steering's beautiful. Feels lovely and precise and light. These are nice and pointy on the front end, but not too oversteery, except if you get into it with the throttle, as you'd expect. The carbon ceramic brakes don't have any, the early ceramic brakes, they were quite wooden when they were cold. So you'd step on the brake and like nothing would happen for a while. But by the time they got to 2008, whatever they did to the composition of the carbon brakes and pads and so on, it's not like that anymore. Not from 2008 anyway. They have good bite even when they're cold, and it's like minus 10 degrees. So all the sensations driving this were like when the car's new. It's still tight. I mean, you read the Ferrari report on it, and you think the car needs a rotisserie restoration because all the things they call. But really, if I took somebody for a ride in the car, they'd never notice anything. There would be nothing. So it's just a case when the car gets to this age, it needs a freshening or some investment. Sort out the inevitable oil leaks and so forth. And this one. This one's got the issue for the tonneau cover that, frankly, I think was just mishandled from the beginning. All the attention in those work orders was the hydraulic cylinders, and one of them did leak at one point, but clearly the top goes up and down fine and latches fine, and so I find it hard to believe there's a hydraulic problem. The rear tonneau has got quite a bit of lateral movement and side-to-side movement. And if you stop the hydraulics, you can feel the movement of the tonneau. So clearly, at least to me, clearly it's not a hydraulic issue with the top. It's something in the mechanism that aligns the tonneau with the car is bent or broken or flexing, or well, I won't even say bent, because if it was bent, it would always be one way, and the thing just moves around. So there's probably a plastic guide or something in it that's broken or misaligned or improperly assembled, or any combination of those that's just allowing one side of the tonneau to be higher than the other. And so I don't think this is the case where you need to go rebuild the entire top, because the top functions fine. It's just the tonneau cover, and you can feel it working to try to fit it into place, but it's binding somewhere in the mechanism. There's something off in the mechanism itself that's not allowing the tonneau cover to seat correctly and evenly. It's got to be some part of the guide. The fact that you can make it do that if you push in the right place, leads me to believe that something isn't bent in it or broken. Like one of the main structural pieces, right? Because then you wouldn't be able to do that. So to me, it looks like, it just looked like some part of the guiding assembly. These things like properly hauls. And, when we demonstrated the performance, in period, the gearbox is so much quicker than the manual that we told everybody they didn't want to buy a manual gearbox. They wanted this gearbox. Now, of course, the technology's taken over. I mean, for good reason. It makes the car faster, but it means the manual gearboxes are rare, so everybody wants rare because they equate it with, more valuable. And so now there's a trend back to the manual gearboxes, and a big, inflation of the prices with these cars, the few of them that do have the manual gearboxes. But like I said earlier in the video, now there's a whole industry that's sprung up to retrofit these cars with a gated 5-speed. There's significant difference in price between an original, an original gated manual and the F1 gearbox. You know, maybe as much as, you know, $100,000 or something like that. That, you know, these guys have come up with a solution for, you know, $25,000 to convert the car, and it's, you know, using all the same parts. So, you know, we're seeing a lot of these cars now being converted to manuals. Since this clutch is, you know, it's still got lots left. I mean, 62,000 kilometers got it to, you know, down from 100 to 34%. So if you do the math, you're good for another 38,000 kilometers or something like that. But when it comes time to do the clutch, you know, you may decide to address the oil leaks, and then you may decide to convert it to a gated manual. I mean, and then, you know, then you absolutely will get your money back out from doing that. So that is an idea. But we're going to park this thing here and summarize this F430. So what can we say about it? Well, it is a beautiful spec and beautiful colors. It's a lovely thing to drive. It's a lovely thing to look at. It's 17 years old. It's had one owner. It's got 61,860 kilometers on it now. It is due for a major service. There are leaks in the engine and the gearbox. There is a rattle from the driver's side exhaust manifold when cold. I don't pick one up now. And actually, before we leave, we should go and just see if we can hear the rattle when the thing is warm. Cosmetically, it looks great. Interior is beautiful. You know, it could be spruced up a little bit. There's some scrapes underneath the car, invisible from the top of the car. You know, the leather could use a little bit of love and cleaning, and, you know, maybe some sympathetic restoration. You know, we have this silly top issue that, again, I think it was just mishandled from the very beginning, that led to the owner wanting to sell the car just because he got fed up with it. You know, it was at the dealer for 18 months out of a 2-year period or something like that. So he's like, you know, he's just had enough. But I think this is an opportunity for somebody, because the entry point for a 430 is going to be, you know, comparatively low, and then you can schedule the, you know, the maintenance and the expenses, you know, over a multi-year period, because, you know, you get in this car and drive it fine. I mean, it doesn't need anything to drive around in. You know, we just drove it. You know, the top is fussy to put up and down the way it is, and, you know, if you keep doing that, you know, you're probably stressing other parts. So you probably want to address the top sooner rather than later. Leaving cracked, rattling exhaust manifolds isn't a great idea either. But you've got some choices for that. You know, I'd probably put a challenge exhaust in it, because Alberta doesn't have a smog. And then you've got genuine Ferrari parts. You know, I'd figure out what's going on with the tonneau cover, sort that out. I'd probably leave the engine, like the seepage from the valve cover and the timing chain cover, and probably leave the gearbox, at least monitor it. And then drive it and enjoy it. We have lots of brakes, good tires, and then, you know, maybe at the point where the clutch gets to 10 or 15%, then I'd reevaluate it, and then at the point that I did the clutch, I'd probably address, you know, the oil leaks and stuff like that, or convert it to a gated manual gearbox. Okay. You know, I might refinish the bottom of the spoiler and stuff, because it's not a big deal, and you could, you know, do it easily, and it's not critical that the, you know, the paint matches the metallic flake exactly, because it's on the underneath of the car. But you could just seal that up if it bugs you, and you know, a little bit of tidying, some maintenance, and somebody just will buy an F430 for a really good price. Nobody's going to know that it has some oil seepage when you're driving down the road, and you're not going to know, because it drives beautifully. So I think it's a real opportunity for somebody. It's kind of a shame that a car this nice, you know, had this issue with the top, and kind of the owner got frustrated with it. So the experience isn't ending well for him. But he had 17 years. He sold his company. He bought his dream car. He drove it. He enjoyed it. He put 60,000 kilometers on the car, and, you know, he's okay to let it go. So, but for the next guy, it's a pretty exciting prospect. And, you know, fundamentally, it's a good car. Drives as nice as any 430 I've driven. So there you go. Lawrence Romanosky and Aidan Goss from Calgary, Canada. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching this, our record longest video. We have over 2 hours in this now. It's a long video, but for the guy that wants to buy this car, I think he'll appreciate the level of detail that we've done. Let's go look at, let's just check out that exhaust first, because we want to do that before we put this car away. So just idling here, I mean, I don't hear any difference side to side anymore. If there is a difference there, it's really slight. It's to me what this is you know, one of the welds breaking. When it's cold, it separates. When it separates, you get the vibration. When it warms up, it kind of seals, then you don't hear it anymore. But it is on the way out. Sooner or later, you're going to have to fix it. Okay, so I guess that's the last thing on this 08 Ferrari F430. Good luck, and I hope the car gets the attention it deserves. And I'm sure the new owner will be thrilled with it, really. Okay, thank you very much, Lawrence Romanosky.